Alright, I wanted to do a quick, a presentation style video like I did the other day. Maybe this will be the last one, but we'll see. I've titled this Making Endurance Great Again. As the stat revamp has gone along, I believe staff is going to push players into training endurance far more than the past. I don't think it's needed. There's ways around it, but I think it will make the game easier on players. Basically, some of the old pitfalls of training it, the trade-offs, if you will, are vanishing. And I think staff's making a mistake from a balance standpoint. But I wanted to explain my reasoning here. I think first and foremost here is a lot of players' mindsets. I think a lot of players try to sit back and try to figure out through different means, try to find the most powerful character they can build, the best ways to beat monsters and bosses and stuff, and a variety of things. I think that drives everyone, especially with the ease of training and retraining stats nowadays, and it's not a hassle. And people are able to store and buy pretty much what they want. You can switch builds in a few minutes and try stuff. So I think that's a key here. I believe this can be done with different item combos, builds, bug abuse, and then for those that can afford to, spend money on premium items. The stat revamp, so far it has changed blocking to make what stat you choose less relevant to blocking. Every build's going to have some kind of blocking. You only gain 5 from luck and 5 from dexterity, and dexterity is considered extra. I believe that this change is also going to steer folks into endurance. Blocking is linear, meaning that 1 MRM increase or 1% blind, etc., equal 1% less chance to be hit. So if you had an 85%, or if you had a 15% chance to block, if you were to add 1 MRM, you now have a 1 more percent chance. It's up to 16%. So when you're stacking blinds and Berserk and the cold and variety of ways to do that, MRM buffs, I think the 5 from luck is negligible. And then if you were like a pure ranger, that you get the extra 5. I mean, I really feel like it's going to be negligible. The stat revamp has defined 3 main stat builds via stats and leaves 3 secondary. So obviously the main stats, intelligence, dexterity, and strength, and then you have 3 secondaries. Main stats provide, now with the BTH change, including the most recent one, 86.4% of your total BTH. So that's 40 out of the 46.25. If you were to have main stat plus luck, you would have 46.25, and you get 40 of that from your main stat. This is also going to drive people to train endurance. Now, comparing the secondaries, you have luck. Obviously, it gives 10% rate lucky strikes, while good, not so effective versus bosses with damage caps. So I didn't add it into the lines, but charisma is pretty good against bosses because it's extra attempts at hits. And when you have a damage cap, let's say the damage cap's 250, you have a guest and a pet that could try to hit that as well as the player. Lucky strikes are basically mitigated with that. Provides up to 10 points on status rolls. That can be helpful. I like playing with statuses personally. That's one reason why I've always included luck in my builds. It provides up to 6.25% BTH, or only 13.6 of the total BTH that you can possibly get, without buffs and stuff. It lost the primary role in initiative, so it's far less effective than before. So that's a nerf there. Other recent changes that negatively affect luck are all due to hypercrit. So the hypercrit, if you remember, they changed that extra turn that you got a couple months back, or whenever it was, And then, more recently, they changed hypercrit removed from pets, as they said it was a bug that was quote-unquote player hypercrit. They did add the pet and guest hypercrit statuses, but there's nothing that's been rolled out. I personally believe they're hesitant to do that. Hypercrit changed to work with Frostfall Crown and Red Server Cap finally, so that they finally fixed that. They warned us that they would fix it. So now that halves your rate before people are abusing that. So if you compare the changes that's taken place compared to, say, like, let's say 4 months ago, luck has taken a huge nerf. Pretty significant. In fact, I think it's unbalanced right now. Charisma, there's no changes yet, but rumors and admissions. Staff is on record as saying Charisma is likely, quote-unquote, overperforming. Staff will likely decouple Dexterity from BTH and make it in line with other main stats as far as that goes. I actually had on Discord, Cam confirmed that is the likely scenario. I don't think anything's set in stone, but there you have it. Guest upkeep is rumored to get an increase. I have seen that in a couple places. I believe it needs to happen. They've also rumored that guest upkeep is artificially low, that they wanted to avoid that, but I believe they feel like that's probably the proper course of action. We might see, and this is what I believe, might be controversial, a full court press to assume Charisma is a main stat. We might actually see it and be viewed as a main stat. I believe if you are a Beastmaster, you are relying on your pet and guest damage more so than yourself. In fact, it probably outperforms yourself. So therefore, why, at that point, I think the roles change. Your pet and guest is your main source of damage, and then your player damage, because you're usually in a defensive armor, your player damage becomes secondary. I think that's the best way to go, and they need to just kind of reconfigure the whole thing from scratch. But that would require a shit ton of work. I don't foresee that happening. Either way, I believe the likely net result will be a sizable nerf. Moving on to endurance. From the stat revamp, it doubles your hit points from 0 to end. That didn't change. It's always been that way. You now get n divided by 50 status resistance, so you basically get a +5 status resistance when monsters attempt statuses on you, fear and daze and paralyze and all that stuff. And you now get a hit endurance divided by 20% hit point healing bonus. I don't know if that's needed because I feel like the amount of hit points you get is already crazy, but those were there. The net result there is a buff. So if you consider the 3 secondaries, you have 2 that one got nerfed, one that's probably going to get nerfed, and endurance got buffed. A lot of people feel like endurance isn't needed, and I agree. You don't have to train endurance, you can get by. But I believe we're going to see more players go to it. There are other factors making endurance look more attractive. Before this, and here's the important parts. Before the stat revamp, endurance builds usually suffered in both BTH and damage. That's because of dexterities. So you're taking 2 stats to get your good BTH. And the trade-off was better defense. This is no longer the case. For example, the pure build is now redefined as a main stat plus endurance plus luck. This is max damage and max accuracy, as well as max hit points that go along with N's newfound buffs. So there's no trade-off there. They literally redefined the pure build. Non-pure builds that train endurance can make up for luck's blocking, which is now only 5, and BTH, which is only 6.25, with simple stat buffs to main stat, such as a +50 misc or a shield toggle, and the effects such as MRM buffs and blind. If you were to do, let's say, a endurance build and not luck, you can make up that BTH and blocking simple through statuses. For example, right now 250 main stat is 40 BTH out of a total of 46.25, with 6.25 coming from luck. A +50 misc will change it from 40 to 48. So you now have increased it more than what luck would provide just by equipping a +50 misc or turning on a toggle on a shield. Imagine what Buffalot and Arcane Amp is doing, or even what Unapoka will do afterwards. Your BTH will exceed with a simple buff. I do wonder if some of those will change in time, maybe like in 5 years when everyone's used to it. Under current stupid Ranger ramp-up ideas, and I just saw a post by someone saying they're hating it, I think it's a bad idea. Ranger hybrids are unlikely. A Ranger Warrior hybrid are pointless. You'll be using melee weapons anyway, but gain +5 blocking. Only. That's the only benefit. But will lose what other stats may provide. I believe changes to dexterity are still going to come. I think they're going to either scrap it or they're going to add other things. I think they're going to add other things because then those things will add to monsters, who are pretty much all training dexterity. The traditional hybrid with strength and int will be one of the main hybrids with a decision to train charisma, luck, or endurance. And I already overviewed the comparison, so even with hybrid, may choose endurance over the other two. Number 4, the ever-growing and powerful backlash build is growing as more backlash stuff is rolled out. And I will try and showcase something I've been doing with this build later. The current most popular backlash build is this build, which is what I'm running. And then, with main stat having so much influence on BTH, the only drawback, it has a lack of gear, so lack of backlash gear. And now you have a very small chance to block. But if in Doomlight, it's less than, I think, 4% chance you're going to block an attack. And I'm working on other ways to incorporate this build here into some pretty strong and powerful playstyles, especially utilizing Necromancer. I already could beat most monsters in just Necromancer as it was, and now with Endurance and can buff up Intelligence to mitigate BTH losses and stuff. I think it's going to be super powerful. My conclusion is other factors of the stat revamp have made Endurance more attractive, and so I believe the new add-ons to Endurance were not needed. Luck took such a huge hit recently, I believe the BTH formulation should double Luck's effect to 12.5 and reduce main stat down from 40 to 33.75, or some other formulation that decreases main stat, increasing Luck. This would give Endurance builds who did not train Luck an actual downside. I don't see downsides with the Endurance anymore. If staff doesn't make further analytical changes, they will have conclusion. They will have made Endurance great again.